The morning started like any other day for Jake Morrison, as he sat in his command chair aboard the space station orbiting Earth. Coffee steamed from his mug while he read through the daily reports from his crew. The former fighter pilot had been running the defense station for 3 years now, and most days were routine. Ships came and went from the planet below while his team monitored space traffic and watched for any problems. Burke sat at her communication station nearby, checking the regular transmissions from Earth and the other stations around the solar system. The young woman had joined Jake's crew 2 years ago and had quickly become one of his most trusted officers. She was smart and calm under pressure, which made her perfect for handling the endless stream of messages that came through their station every day. Lisa Grant was down on Earth in her laboratory working on the latest defense projects that most people knew nothing about. The brilliant scientist had been leading a secret program for the past decade that focused on protecting the planet from threats that might come from space. While the public thought Earth's defenses were basic missiles and nuclear weapons, Lisa and her team had been building something much more advanced. The first sign of trouble came at exactly 10:15 in the morning when Amy's screen started showing strange readings from the outer edge of the solar system. She frowned as she looked at the data and ran it through the computer systems again to make sure the sensors were working properly. The numbers didn't make sense because they showed massive objects moving toward Earth at incredible speed. Jake noticed Amy's concerned expression and walked over to her station to see what was happening. The readings on her screen showed at least 50 enormous objects heading directly toward their solar system. Each one was larger than anything humans had ever built, and they were moving faster than any known technology could explain. The objects would reach Earth's orbit in less than 6 hours. Amy sent emergency signals to Earth and all the other defense stations while Jake activated the alert systems that would warn everyone about the approaching threat. Within minutes, every military base on Earth knew about the incoming objects and people started preparing for whatever was coming. General Carl Brooks received the message at his headquarters and immediately called Lisa Grant to ask if her secret defense systems were ready. The alien fleet began to slow down as it approached Earth, and the massive ships became visible to telescopes around the planet. Each vessel looked like a crimson-colored mountain, floating through space with weapons that could be seen even from millions of miles away. The ships arranged themselves in a battle formation around Earth, while smaller craft moved between the larger vessels like deadly insects. Commander Vex Thaler stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the blue and green planet that his empire had marked for conquest. The reptilian alien was 9 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and scales that could stop bullets. His yellow eyes studied the primitive world below while his officers prepared the weapons that had destroyed dozens of other planets across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire had been conquering worlds for thousands of years, and Earth looked like it would be one of their easiest victories. Their intelligence reports showed that humans still used chemical rockets and nuclear weapons while fighting wars against each other instead of working together. The aliens expected the planet to surrender within hours once they demonstrated their superior technology and firepower. Vex Thalar ordered his communications officer to send a message to Earth demanding immediate surrender from all human governments. The message was broadcast on every frequency and translated into all the major languages, so that everyone on the planet would understand what was happening. The aliens gave Earth exactly 1 hour to surrender completely or face total destruction from orbital bombardment. Jake received the alien message on his station and immediately forwarded it to Earth while his crew prepared their weapons and defensive systems. The space station was armed with missiles and energy weapons, but they were designed to fight human enemies, not massive alien warships. Still, Jake and his crew were not going to give up without a fight no matter how hopeless things looked. Amy worked frantically at her station coordinating communications between all the human forces while monitoring the alien fleet for any signs of what they might do next. The aliens were holding position around Earth, but their weapons were clearly charging up and ready to fire. Smaller alien ships were moving closer to the planet and appeared to be scanning the surface for targets. Down on Earth, Lisa Grant was in her command bunker, coordinating with General Brooks and other military leaders around the world. The secret defense systems she had been building were finally going to be tested in real combat. Her team had spent years preparing for exactly this kind of threat, and now they would find out if their technology was advanced enough to fight alien invaders. The hour that the aliens had given Earth was almost over, and no government on the planet was willing to surrender to the invaders. Every military force was preparing to fight, even though they knew the aliens had superior technology and numbers. Humans had never backed down from a fight, and they were not going to start now, even if it meant facing extinction. Vex Thalar watched his chronometer count down the final minutes before the attack would begin. He had given dozens of ultimatums to other planets, and most had surrendered immediately when they saw his fleet. The few that had tried to fight were destroyed so quickly that it barely qualified as a battle. He expected Earth to be the same. As the final seconds ticked away, Jake Morrison gripped his command chair and prepared to give the order to fire everything they had at the alien ships. His small crew was ready to die fighting rather than surrender to invaders who wanted to enslave their world. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and nobody knew how it would end. The alien attack began exactly 1 hour after their ultimatum expired, with a display of firepower that was meant to terrify Earth into immediate surrender. Vex Thalar ordered his weapons officers to target the largest cities on the planet, with their plasma cannons that had melted entire mountains on other worlds. The crimson beams of energy streaked down from orbit, carrying enough power to vaporize everything within miles of their impact points. The aliens expected to see massive explosions and mushroom clouds rising from Earth's major population centers, but instead something incredible happened that no one in the Zephyrian fleet could understand. The plasma beam struck invisible barriers above the cities and spread out like water hitting a window. The energy was absorbed and redirected harmlessly into space, while the cities below remained completely untouched. Lisa Grant watched her monitoring screens from the command bunker deep beneath Colorado and smiled with satisfaction, as her defensive systems worked exactly as designed. The shield generators she had been building in secret for 10 years were powered by technology that was decades ahead of anything the public knew about. Her team had studied alien technology for years after finding crashed ships and had built defenses specifically designed to stop energy weapons. General Brooks stood beside Lisa, watching the same screens and feeling amazed that her shields were actually working against weapons that could destroy planets. The energy readings showed that the alien plasma cannons were incredibly powerful, but the harmonic resonance fields were absorbing and redirecting the energy without any strain on the generators. Earth's cities were safe as long as the power held out. Commander Vex Thalar roared with rage when he saw his most powerful weapons being stopped by primitive humans who should have been defenseless against his advanced technology. His tactical officers were frantically checking their instruments and running diagnostics on the plasma cannons to make sure they were working properly. The weapons that had conquered dozens of worlds were being neutralized by technology that shouldn't exist on Earth. Jake Morrison felt a surge of hope when he saw the alien attacks being stopped by Lisa's defensive shields, but he knew the aliens would not give up after one failed attempt. His space station was still outnumbered and outgunned by the massive alien fleet, but at least Earth's cities were protected. He ordered his weapons officer to prepare for a counterattack using every missile and energy weapon they had available. The human retaliation caught the aliens completely off guard, because they had expected Earth's defenses to be destroyed in the first wave of the attack. What appeared to be simple nuclear missiles launched from Earth, and the space station suddenly split apart when they reached the alien fleet. Each missile contained dozens of smaller warheads guided by artificial intelligence and programmed to target specific weak points on enemy ships. Amy Burke coordinated the attack from her communication station by linking all the human forces together through secure channels that the aliens could not intercept. The missiles were not just random weapons, but carefully designed projectiles that used kinetic energy and shaped charges to penetrate alien armor. Each warhead was guided by computers that had studied the alien ship designs and identified the most vulnerable areas. The kinetic projectiles struck the alien ships with surgical precision, hitting power, generators, weapon systems, and communication arrays with devastating effect. The aliens had superior shields and armor, but they had never faced weapons designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in their technology. Several smaller alien ships were crippled in the first wave, while the larger vessels suffered significant damage to their offensive capabilities. Vex Thalar felt his flagship shudder as human weapons found their mark and damaged systems throughout his ship. The bridge lights flickered and several control panels exploded in showers of sparks, while his crew fought to maintain power and restore damaged systems. His tactical officer reported that they had lost 30% of their offensive capability, and several ships in the fleet were no longer combat effective. The alien commander could not understand how humans had developed weapons that were so effective against Zephyrian technology, when their intelligence reports showed Earth was still using primitive chemical rockets and nuclear fission. The kinetic projectiles were using principles of physics that his scientists barely understood, while the targeting systems were more accurate than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. Lisa Grant's team had spent years studying captured alien technology and reverse engineering everything they could learn about Zephyrian weapons and defenses. The human weapons were designed from the ground up to fight aliens using tactics and technology that would be unexpected and devastating. While Earth appeared to be divided and primitive in reality, the planet had been preparing for this exact scenario for decades. Down on Earth, military forces around the world were activating hidden weapon systems that had been disguised as civilian installations for years. Radar stations that appeared to be for air traffic control were actually targeting systems for orbital defense platforms, while communication towers were really components of a global defense network that could coordinate attacks against alien ships. The second wave of human missiles was even more effective than the first because Lisa's computers had analyzed the alien defensive responses and adjusted their targeting accordingly. The artificial intelligence systems controlling the weapons learned from each attack and modified their approach to maximize damage against enemy ships. Several large alien vessels began listing and falling toward Earth's atmosphere as their engines failed. Commander Vex Thaler ordered his remaining ships to change tactics and focus on destroying the human weapon systems instead of targeting cities that were protected by shields. His fleet began bombarding the space stations and hidden military bases while launching fighter craft to engage human missiles before they could reach their targets. The battle was becoming much more difficult than he had expected. Jake Morrison's space station came under heavy fire as alien plasma beams and missiles targeted the human defensive positions. His shields were holding, but they were not as advanced as the planetary defense systems and would not last long under concentrated fire. He ordered his crew to launch everything they had at the nearest alien ships while they still had the chance to fight back. The space battle raged for hours as both sides exchanged fire and maneuvered for better positions. Human forces were outnumbered, but their weapons were proving more effective than anyone had dared hope. While the alien technology was not as overwhelming as it first appeared, the tide of battle was slowly turning in favor of the defenders as more alien ships were damaged or destroyed. By the end of the day, the alien fleet had lost nearly half of its combat capability, while Earth's defenses remained largely intact. The Zephyrian Empire had expected an easy victory, but instead found themselves locked in a desperate struggle with an enemy they had seriously underestimated. The humans were not going to surrender, and they had the technology to fight back effectively. Commander Vex Thaler realized that his orbital bombardment was failing against Earth's defensive shields, and decided to change tactics by sending ground forces to establish control of the planet's surface. The Zephyrian ground troops were the most feared warriors in the galaxy, standing 10 feet tall and wearing powered armor that had never been defeated in battle. Their weapons could cut through. Steel in their armor could stop almost any projectile that human forces might use against them. The alien commander selected remote landing zones far from major cities where his troops could establish secure beachheads before moving against human population centers. He expected the ground invasion to be much easier than the space battle, because humans were physically weaker and had inferior weapons compared to his elite warriors. Once his troops controlled key locations on the surface, the orbital bombardment could target specific military installations without worrying about civilian shields. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rodriguez received orders to intercept the alien landing forces in the forests of Montana, where his regiment had been training for guerrilla warfare for the past 5 years. The experienced soldier had fought in conflicts around the world and knew that facing a superior enemy required unconventional tactics and careful preparation. His troops were equipped with weapons specifically designed to fight alien invaders, and they knew the terrain better than anyone. The first Zephyrian dropships landed in what appeared to be an isolated valley, surrounded by dense forest and rocky hills. The alien warriors emerged from their transports confident that they would face little resistance from primitive human soldiers. Their sensors showed no large concentrations of enemy forces, and their intelligence indicated that human weapons would be ineffective against their advanced armor and shields. Sam Rodriguez watched the alien landing through binoculars from a concealed position on a hillside overlooking the valley. His soldiers were hidden throughout the forest in positions that had been prepared months in advance, with camouflaged bunkers and weapon caches. The aliens had landed exactly where the humans wanted them, in a carefully prepared killing field that offered no escape routes. Sergeant Kate Williams lay motionless in her sniper position among the trees, with a rifle loaded with specially designed tungsten core rounds that could penetrate alien armor. She had been waiting for 3 hours without moving, while the aliens established their perimeter and began moving into the forest. The young woman was one of the best marksmen in the regiment and had been training specifically to fight tall armored enemies. The Zephyrian advance squad moved through the forest, expecting to encounter frightened civilians or poorly equipped military units that would flee at the first sight of their imposing warriors. Instead, they found themselves walking into an ambush that had been planned and rehearsed dozens of times. Human soldiers emerged from hidden positions and struck with devastating precision before vanishing back into the dense vegetation. Kate Williams took her first shot when the lead alien warrior was exactly 400 meters away and moving through a clearing where she had a perfect angle on a weak point in his armor. The tungsten round punched through the alien's chest plate and dropped the 10-foot-tall warrior instantly. Before his companions could react, she had already moved to a different position and was lining up her next target. The alien squad found themselves under attack from enemies they could not see, while their advanced sensors were being blocked by some kind of electronic interference. Human soldiers appeared for seconds to fire armor-piercing rockets and heavy-caliber rounds before disappearing into the forest like ghosts. Every time the aliens tried to advance, they walked into carefully placed explosive traps and ambushes. Sam Rodriguez coordinated the attack through radio communications while moving between different positions to direct his soldiers and adjust their tactics based on how the aliens responded. His troops were using every dirty trick and guerrilla warfare technique that humans had developed over thousands of years of fighting each other. The aliens had superior technology, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to fight fair. The Zephyrian warriors were trained for conventional battles against enemies that would stand and fight in open combat, but the humans were using hit and run tactics that gave them no clear targets to engage. Every tree could hide a sniper, while every rock might conceal an explosive device. The dense forest that the aliens had thought would provide easy cover was actually working against them. Captain Ben Murphy led his mechanized infantry unit in a flanking attack against the alien landing zone, while the main force kept the enemy troops busy in the forest. His soldiers were equipped with powered exoskeletons and heavy weapons that could match alien technology in a direct fight. The plan was to destroy the enemy dropships and prevent reinforcements from landing, while the guerrilla forces eliminated the aliens already on the ground. The battle in the forest continued for hours as human soldiers picked off alien warriors one by one, using superior knowledge of the terrain and tactics that the invaders had never encountered before. The Zephyrians were individually stronger and better armed, but they were fighting blind against enemies who struck without warning and then vanished into the wilderness. Their advanced armor was useless against weapons designed specifically to penetrate it. Commander Vex Thaler received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces as they took heavy casualties without being able to inflict significant damage on the human defenders. His warriors were the best in the galaxy, but they were being systematically destroyed by enemies who refused to engage in honorable combat. The humans were using tactics that no civilized species would employ against a superior foe. Kate Williams had eliminated 6 alien warriors when she finally encountered one who managed to spot her position and return fire. The plasma beam from his weapon turned a tree next to her into vapor, but she had already rolled away and was firing from behind a boulder. Her tungsten rounds cracked his faceplate, and the alien warrior collapsed with his yellow blood spreading across the forest. Ben Murphy's assault on the landing zone succeeded in destroying 2 of the alien dropships and damaging a third before enemy reinforcements arrived. His troops fought a running battle back into the forest where they could use guerrilla tactics instead of facing the aliens in open combat. The loss of their transport ships left the alien ground forces stranded on Earth with no way to retreat or receive supplies. The human forces had learned everything they could about alien technology and tactics, from intercepted communications and captured equipment. Lisa Grant's scientists had been studying Zephyrian weapons and armor for years and had developed countermeasures for every major system the aliens used. The humans were fighting with knowledge while the aliens were operating blind. As night fell, the surviving alien warriors found themselves surrounded in hostile territory with their transport destroyed, and their numbers reduced by more than half. The humans continued their attacks throughout the darkness using night vision equipment and infrared sensors, while the aliens struggled to adapt to conditions they had never encountered. The invasion force that was supposed to secure a beachhead for orbital bombardment was being systematically eliminated. Sam Rodriguez gathered his commanders for a final assault on the remaining alien positions. The enemy was trapped and demoralized while human forces held every advantage in the terrain and tactical situation. By dawn, the forest would be cleared of invaders and Earth would have won its first major victory against the Zephyrian Empire. The ground invasion had failed completely, and the aliens were learning that conquering humanity would not be as easy as they had expected. Admiral Helen Carter had been waiting in her hidden command center on the far side of Earth's moon for the perfect moment to reveal humanity's most secret weapon. The lunar installations had been disguised as mining operations and scientific research stations for decades, while actually serving as the ultimate defensive system for Earth. Massive railgun batteries were concealed beneath artificial craters and camouflaged structures that had fooled alien sensors completely. The Zephyrian fleet had focused entirely on Earth during their attack and barely bothered to scan the moon except for basic reconnaissance. Their arrogance and overconfidence had blinded them to the possibility that humans might have weapons hidden on their satellite. Helen had been watching the space battle and ground invasion, while waiting for the aliens to position themselves exactly where her guns could do the most damage. Ben Murphy was leading his mechanized infantry through the wreckage of the alien landing zone when he received new orders to capture intact alien technology. Instead of just destroying enemy forces, Lisa Grant needed samples of Zephyrian equipment to complete her reverse engineering projects, and Ben's unit was in the best position to secure valuable intelligence from the defeated invasion force. The mission parameters had changed from destruction to capture and exploitation. The aliens had never lost ground forces to a primitive species before and were completely unprepared for humans who fought with such effectiveness and determination. Their tactical manuals contained no procedures for dealing with guerrilla warfare or enemies who used the terrain itself as a weapon. Every assumption they had made about human capabilities was proving to be dangerously wrong. Helen Carter gave the order to activate the Sword of Damocles protocol, and across the lunar surface hidden installations began powering up their massive weapon systems. Camouflaged panels slid away to reveal railgun barrels that were hundreds of meters long, while targeting computers locked onto alien ships that were still focused on bombarding Earth. The first salvo would catch the Zephyrian fleet completely by surprise. Sam Rodriguez coordinated with Ben Murphy to identify which alien equipment would be most valuable for Lisa Grant's research team. The scientists needed intact power sources, communication systems, and weapons that could be studied and reverse engineered to improve human defenses. Capturing live aliens for interrogation was also a priority, since they could provide intelligence about Zephyrian military capabilities and weaknesses. The lunar railguns fired their first salvo at exactly the moment when the alien fleet was most vulnerable, with their shields focused on defending against attacks from Earth. Hypervelocity projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds by electromagnetic fields streaked across space and struck Zephyrian ships before their sensors could detect the incoming threat. The kinetic energy alone was enough to punch through alien armor like paper. Commander Vex Thalar felt his flagship shudder and list to one side as railgun projectiles tore through the hull and destroyed critical systems throughout the ship. Emergency alarms blared while his crew struggled to contain fires and seal hull breaches that were venting atmosphere into space. The attack had come from a direction they were not defending and caught them completely off guard. Ben Murphy's assault team captured their first intact alien transport when its crew abandoned the damaged vessel after taking heavy casualties from human guerrilla fighters. The powered armor and weapons left behind by fleeing aliens were exactly what Lisa Grant needed to understand how Zephyrian technology worked. His soldiers secured the area and called for extraction teams to remove the valuable equipment. The second wave of railgun fire from the lunar installations was even more devastating than the first because Helen Carter's targeting computers had analyzed the alien defensive responses and adjusted their aim accordingly. Multiple projectiles struck each target ship simultaneously, overwhelming their shields and armor with concentrated kinetic energy that no defense could stop. Several large alien vessels broke apart, completely under the bombardment. Lisa Grant received the first samples of captured alien technology in her underground laboratory and immediately began analyzing the power sources and computer systems. Her team had been preparing for this moment for years and had all the equipment needed to reverse engineer alien devices quickly and safely. Within hours, they would have new weapons and defensive systems based on Zephyrian designs. Commander Vex Thaler ordered his remaining ships to retreat from Earth's orbit and regroup at a safe distance while they assessed the damage and tried to understand how humans had hidden such powerful weapons on their moon. His fleet had lost more than half its combat capability and was no longer strong enough to complete the invasion of Earth. The mission was becoming a complete disaster. Kate Williams and her sniper team captured a wounded Zephyrian warrior who had been separated from his unit during the forest battle. The alien was barely alive but conscious enough to be interrogated about his species' military capabilities and plans for future attacks. Human medics worked to keep the prisoner stable while intelligence officers prepared to extract information that could save Earth. The retreat of the alien fleet gave Helen Carter the opportunity to launch additional railgun salvos at maximum range, while the enemy ships were still within reach of her weapons. The lunar installations had enough ammunition stored to continue bombardment for days, and every shot was guided by targeting systems that learned from previous attacks. The aliens were being systematically destroyed as they fled. Ben Murphy's team discovered that the alien transport they had captured contained detailed maps of Zephyrian territory and intelligence about other species that had been conquered by the Empire. The information would be invaluable for planning future human operations against alien forces and understanding the broader threat that Earth faced from hostile civilizations across the galaxy. Lisa Grant's scientists succeeded in activating captured alien power sources and began integrating them into human weapon systems. The energy output was far greater than anything Earth had developed independently and would allow existing defensive systems to operate at much higher efficiency. New weapons based on alien technology would be ready for combat within days instead of years. The interrogation of the captured Zephyrian warrior revealed that Earth was considered one of the weakest targets in their invasion plan, and that much stronger alien fleets were preparing to attack other human colonies. The Empire had dozens of species under their control and resources that dwarfed anything humanity could field independently. Earth had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. Admiral Helen Carter coordinated with military leaders on Earth to plan follow-up attacks against the retreating alien fleet while they were still damaged and demoralized. The lunar railguns had proven their effectiveness, but humanity needed to press their advantage before the aliens could regroup and call for reinforcements. The next phase of the battle would determine whether Earth could survive as an independent world. Commander Vex Thaler sent desperate messages to the Zephyrian High Command, requesting immediate reinforcements and warning that humans were far more dangerous than their intelligence reports had indicated. Earth was defended by advanced technology and warriors who fought with tactics that no civilized species would use. The Empire would need to send a much larger fleet if they wanted to conquer this primitive but deadly world. The human counterstrike had succeeded beyond all expectations by turning the tide of battle and putting alien invaders on the defensive. For the first time in the war, Earth's hidden weapons and guerrilla tactics had proven effective against superior technology, while captured alien equipment would soon strengthen human defenses even further. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity would not surrender without a fight. The final battle for Earth began when Commander Vex Thaler made his last desperate attempt to complete the invasion before reinforcements could arrive from the Zephyrian Empire. His remaining ships formed a tight formation around the most powerful vessel in his fleet, while damaged ships that could still fight provided cover for one final assault on the planet's surface. The alien commander knew this. was his only chance to salvage victory from what had become a humiliating defeat. Jake Morrison found himself in command of the largest combined fleet that humanity had ever assembled, as ships from every nation on Earth gathered to face the alien threat together. The American vessels flew alongside Chinese destroyers, Russian cruisers, European frigates, and ships from dozens of other countries that had put aside their differences to defend their shared home. Political boundaries meant nothing. When the entire human species faced extinction, Lisa, Grant's team had worked around the clock to upgrade human weapons with captured alien technology, and the results exceeded everyone's expectations. Power sources that had been reverse-engineered from Zephyrian equipment now powered defensive shields that were stronger than anything the aliens possessed. Human missiles carried warheads based on alien plasma technology, while railguns fired projectiles, guided by captured targeting. Systems Admiral Helen Carter coordinated the combined human fleet from her lunar command center while monitoring the approach of the alien formation. Her railgun batteries were fully loaded and ready to provide fire support for the ships defending Earth, but the final battle would be decided by the courage and skill of human crews fighting in ships they had built with their own hands. The outcome would determine the future of their species. Commander Vex Teller could not understand how a divided species that had been fighting wars against itself for thousands of years could suddenly unite so effectively against his invasion force. Human ships that should have been enemies were working together with perfect coordination, while their weapons had somehow become more advanced than Zephyrian technology. Everything his empire knew about warfare was being proven wrong by these primitive defenders. The alien assault began with a concentrated bombardment from every remaining weapon in the Zephyrian fleet, while their most powerful ship charged directly toward Earth's defensive line. Vex Thaler had decided to stake everything on breaking through human defenses and establishing orbital control over the planet. If his flagship could reach Earth's atmosphere, he could begin bombarding the surface and force humanity to surrender. Jake Morrison ordered all human ships to focus their fire on the alien flagship while using their superior numbers to surround and destroy the smaller escort vessels. The battle plan was simple but required perfect timing and coordination between crews that had never worked together before. Every ship captain had to trust their former enemies completely while fighting for the survival of their species. Ben Murphy's ground forces prepared to repel any alien troops that might reach Earth's surface while defending the installations that powered the planet's defensive shields. His mechanized infantry had been reinforced with weapons and armor based on captured alien technology and were ready to fight enemies who no longer had the advantage of superior equipment. The humans had learned from their earlier battles and would not be caught off guard again. The space battle was the most intense fighting that anyone had ever experienced, as human and alien ships exchanged devastating fire at point-blank range. Plasma beams and railgun projectiles filled the space around Earth, while fighters and missiles darted between the larger vessels like angry insects. Ships on both sides were destroyed or crippled, but the humans had more vessels and were fighting for their homeworld. Kate Williams commanded a team of snipers aboard one of the human cruisers that had been modified to carry infantry forces for boarding actions against alien ships. Her soldiers were equipped with armor-piercing weapons and had trained extensively for fighting in zero-gravity environments. When Jake Morrison's flagship disabled an alien escort vessel, Kate's team was ready to capture it and secure more intelligence about enemy capabilities. Lisa Grant monitored the battle from her underground command center while her computers analyzed alien tactics and looked for weaknesses that could be exploited. The captured Zephyrian technology had provided detailed information about their weapons and defenses, but the aliens were adapting their strategies as the battle progressed. Human forces needed to stay one step ahead if they wanted to achieve victory. Commander Vex Thellar's flagship broke through the human defensive line and began its final approach toward Earth's surface, but found itself surrounded by enemy vessels that concentrated their fire on his engines and weapon systems. The massive alien ship was tough enough to absorb tremendous damage, but it could not fight effectively against so many opponents, attacking from all directions simultaneously. Admiral Helen Carter's lunar railguns provided the decisive blow when they fired a coordinated salvo that struck the alien flagship's main reactor and caused a cascade failure throughout the ship's power systems. The vessel began to drift helplessly, while secondary explosions destroyed its weapons and life support systems. Vexthalar's last gamble had failed and his invasion force was finished. The remaining alien ships attempted to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by human vessels that had been positioned to prevent exactly this maneuver. Jake Morrison offered the aliens a chance to surrender and receive treatment for their wounded while avoiding unnecessary destruction of ships that were no longer a threat to Earth. Humanity had won the battle and could afford to show mercy to defeated enemies. Vexthalar found himself aboard Jake Morrison's flagship as a prisoner of war, while human medics treated his injuries and those of his surviving crew members. The proud alien commander could not comprehend how his empire's most powerful fleet had been defeated by a species that his intelligence reports had described as primitive and divided. He asked Jake to explain how humanity had achieved such an impossible victory. Jake Morrison's answer was simple and direct as he explained that human diversity and experience with conflict had actually made them stronger instead of weaker. Every war that humanity had ever fought had taught them new tactics and technologies, while their different cultures and perspectives had created innovative solutions to military problems. The aliens had brought their strongest forces to Earth, but they had never faced an enemy that learned and adapted so quickly. The interrogation of captured Zephyrian officers revealed that Earth had been selected for conquest specifically because it appeared weak and divided compared to other worlds the Empire had encountered. The aliens had expected an easy victory against primitive humans who spent more time fighting each other than preparing for external threats. Instead, they had discovered that human warfare experience was actually a powerful advantage in galactic conflicts. Lisa Grant's analysis of captured alien technology showed that the Zephyrian Empire was not as advanced as they claimed, and that their success came mainly from overwhelming less developed civilizations with superior numbers and firepower. Humanity's rapid technological development and innovative tactics had neutralized most of their advantages and proven that the Empire could be defeated by determined resistance. General Carl Brooks addressed the people of Earth to announce their victory over the alien invasion and to explain that humanity had proven itself ready to take its place among the civilizations of the galaxy. The successful defense of Earth had demonstrated that humans could work together when faced with existential threats and that their military capabilities were far more advanced than anyone had realized. The aftermath of the battle saw former enemies working together to rebuild damaged installations and prepare for possible future conflicts with other hostile alien species. The unity that had emerged during the crisis continued as human governments realized that cooperation was essential for survival in a dangerous galaxy filled with potential threats and opportunities. Commander Vexthalar remained on Earth as an advisor to human military strategists while serving his sentence as a prisoner of war. His knowledge of galactic politics and alien military capabilities was invaluable for preparing humanity's expansion into space as an independent power that other civilizations would have to respect and negotiate with as equals rather than potential victims. The victory over the Zephyrian invasion marked the beginning of a new era for humanity as they prepared to explore the galaxy and establish relationships with other species on their own terms. Earth had survived its first test as a galactic civilization and proven that humans would never surrender their freedom to alien conquerors, no matter how powerful they appeared to be.